Welcome to today's quarterly wrap-up because I fell so far behind in videos. What's up guys, my name is Dom, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I make bookish content, travel content, miscellaneous collection content. Today's video is going to be bookish content because we are doing a quarterly wrap-up. We are 3 months into the year of 2020, which has been the longest year in my life so far because March was even longer than January. I'm losing my mind, but it's fine. It's fine. So a lot has happened since then. I was able to read some books in January, but then I went to Disney World and I was so caught up with the job that I couldn't really read a lot. Like in the month of February, I think I read 1 book total. And then the Sherlock Athon happened in March, and then the coronavirus hit us all, and a bunch of us got laid off from our jobs, so there was that chaos. We're all just gonna wrap it up in one video. Also, side note, I want everyone to know that this Cubs jersey is like a legit jersey and everything, and I only spent $60 because I am small enough for the children's section, apparently. Pro tip. So therefore you don't have to spend $120 on a jersey. So in this quarterly wrap up I have 8 books to talk about, and then we're just gonna jump right into it. I do not have physical copies of any of these books because they're either library books or Kindle books. So it's gonna be a good time. I should probably take a thumbnail. The first book we're going to talk about is I'll Give You the Sun by Jenny Nelson. I made a reading vlog of this book because I want to do a reading vlog of my first book of 2020. For those of you who don't know, this is about 2 characters who are twins. I'm already forgetting their names because it's been a while since I've read this. So they used to get along really, really well, but then after an accident they just kind of fell apart. So this story is just your typical YA contemporary like coming of age story. In the sister's point of view, it's present day when they're 16 years old, and then when it's in the brother's point of view, the brother's name is Noah. Why can I not remember the girl's name? But the brother's name is Noah, and then it takes place in the past when they are 13 years old. And there is also some LGBT plus representation. Don't want to give away any more because I don't remember exactly what's in the synopsis versus what's not, so I don't want to spoil it. But in the end, my thoughts on this book is that I could not decide between 4-star or a 4.5, so if you look on Goodreads, I have like the physical star rating as 4 stars. In the beginning, it was kind of slow. If you've been on this channel for a while, I think I've mentioned a few times that I have a hard time with YA contemporary just because I think my biggest gripe with it is that I don't relate to it anymore. Everything I read in high school was YA contemporary. Obviously not everything. I had some, fantasy here and there, but it was mostly YA contemporary, but that's because I related to it at the time. I don't relate to it anymore, so I struggle a bit with it. But the first quarter, it was like the first third of the book, I was like, alright, this is gonna be a 3 out of 5 star read. Like, it's not bad, but I was slugging through. But then this book just takes a turn, and I just wanted to cry the whole time. I'm gonna link up the reading vlog. It was a wild time, and then the writing is actually beautiful. If you see my review on Goodreads, I do mention that some of this is very, very predictable. I was able to predict certain things that ended up happening after a while with all the foreshadowing and stuff, but it just flowed well, so that's why I think it worked. Even though it was predictable, I still enjoyed it. It's because the writing flowed so well. But because of that boring first third, that's why it's 4 stars, not 5, but it was emotional, so that's why I want to put it at 4.5, but I don't know. So the next book I read, so these were all library books by the way, but the next book I read was The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. This is just about a woman who's on a mission, and she was a chemist for an unnamed program because that's how secret they were. She goes on a mission to kill this dude. Turns out someone was there to kill her, and then they find out both of them were set up, so her versus this dude, and then the guy she was gonna kill but dude number 2 was trying to save. They all go on a little mission together to take down these people. So in the end, I think you guys can guess by the way I was describing the book, I was not a fan of this book. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I went into this not knowing it was gonna be so romance heavy, which is my fault, I guess, because it's Stephanie Meyer, so I don't know why I wasn't expecting romance, but at the same time it wasn't advertised to be romance heavy, at least to me. So I was like, I don't like this. And it was insta-love, not so much from Alex's point of view, who's our main character. Not so much from Alex, but from the guy whose name, I don't remember fucking names. But the guy was very, very insta-love, which I don't really understand because 2 seconds ago she was literally going to kill you. Can't fucking relate to that. If a guy was about to kill me and then 2 seconds later, just kidding, I'm saved, I'm not gonna fall in love with him, can't fucking relate. But yeah, boring. I sludged through the first 200 pages, and by like page 200, it took a turn and it got really, really exciting. Like there was action involved, and I'm like, alright, the rest of the book is going to be like this, because it's like a 500-page book. It lasted 50 pages, and then I was bored again, and I sludged through the rest of the book, and quite frankly, this book is not memorable. Like I remember bits and pieces, and I remember the ending, and that's it. Also, I should have kept a word count because the characters just would always describe something as why can't I pronounce this? Incapacitated. Wow, I can't read. But I should have kept like a drinking count. Like take a shot every time I read this word, because I actually got sick of it. You know when an author uses a word so much you literally get sick of it? That's what happened. I was like, Meyer, Stephanie Meyer, please write, use another word. When it came to the end of this book, I was really happy it was the end, not because it was like a good ending or I wanted to know what happened, but more so because like it was over. The book was done, and this pushed me behind on so much reading. I could have gotten like 2 more books done. I don't know why I didn't like stop. I think it's just because like I reached a certain point where I was committed. But I read it cover to cover, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And despite all the complaining I just did, it was kind of cool to see Stephanie Meyer like dip her toes into something else, because this did read separate from Twilight. Because you know how some authors just, they become so famous with a certain book, it's just what they're known for. Like, I'm going to use J.K. Rowling as an example, because I remember when The Casual Vacancy came out, a lot of people didn't like it simply because it had nothing to do with Harry Potter. So people would hate it. Like, I remember reading those reviews, and I was like, come on now. But I think this book helped her step away from Twilight. I mean, I hated the book, but like, we stan at the same time. So then the next book I read, and this was the last book I read in January, is Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. This book, never in my life have I closed a book when finishing and just started sobbing. And I don't know why I started sobbing. That's the issue here. So this book is about like your kind of everyday life of a family, and it takes certain things of everyday life to describe them, like the husband and the wife. So what's his name? I can't remember names. Oh my god. The wife's name is Julia. What's the guy's name? Jacob and Julia. So that's the husband and wife. You know, they're having marital problems. And like their boys can see it. The oldest son could see it the most, and he's trying to tell the others, like, hey, this is what's up. And like, it's just a family issues type book, except it's from a Jewish perspective. Judaism is a huge theme, like motif kind of thing in this book. Like the oldest son, Sam, like his impending bar mitzvah's coming, and like he doesn't want to do it, so that's an issue in this book. And I don't know what it is about this book. Like, I don't know why I started sobbing. Like, it's not a great book, but like, it's good. It's like, it's better than good, but it's not great. I'm going to use my favorite Dorian Gray quote, where he says, I didn't say I liked the book, Harry, I said it fascinated me. I think that's what sums up my opinion about this book. Foer had a way of writing the dialogue in this book where it was so realistic that honestly I felt like I was intruding on their conversation. Like, I wanted to close the book because I felt so bad for intruding on Jacob and Julia's conversation. Their whole relationship just saddened me because you want to root for these people, and it's like, I don't know how to talk about this book without spoiling it. It just messed up my mind, and I remember I just couldn't put it down, and I grew so attached to everyone. And like, they're not like super likable people, which is done purposely because it's supposed to be that realistic. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, we're all flawed, and then you see that in this book, and it breaks my heart. Like, but I love them so much. And that ending, just the way everything was worded and everything was happening, and Jacob finally like accepting certain things, like, crushed me. It was probably because the time I read this book, I stayed up. So what happened was, I had all these library books, but then I had to leave for Disney on a certain day. It's January 25th. I still had 100 pages to go in this book, but like, I wanted to see some of my friends before I left, so me and my friend went out to a bar, and then I got home. My flight was at 7 in the morning, so I had to leave home at not 6, I had to leave home at 5 in the morning. Actually, before that, I had to be at the airport by 5, so I had to leave at like 4:30. Therefore, I had to be up by 3:30. I stayed up till 2 in the fucking morning to finish this book, and like, I held it together, but for some reason, as soon as I shut the book, I just sobbed. Like, I don't mean tearing up. Like, I had tears streaming down my face, and I was sobbing. I was like gasping, hyperventilating, like gasping for air, because that's how hard I was crying. And I don't know if it was like the book, or the book itself, or like the book reminded me of like real life things, or just the fact that I was moving cities at the time, so I was very, very overwhelmed, because at the time, like, not to keep bringing up Disney, but like at the time I thought I was going to be living in Florida for the next few years, so I was like literally moving cities. It was an emotional ride. So at the end of the day, because it wasn't a great book, but it was better than good, I decided to give it 4 stars, because like good books are 3 stars, great are 5. So I thought 4 was like a good compromise. I'm doing all these hand motions and I don't know if you guys can see it. It was a wild time reading this book. Alright, so the one book I read in February, it has a kind of a longish title. It was A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier by Ishmael Bia. So he lived in the country Sierra Leone. The Civil War broke out, which he was caught in the middle. So this is his memoir, and then as the title suggests, he does become a soldier. For what this guy went through, 5 out of 5 stars for just being as strong as he is, but like just because of the writing of this book, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars just because. Why? I don't really know. I just didn't think the writing itself was like super spectacular. There's some stuff at the end where I wanted to see more. I can't like describe why because it's the end, so I don't want to spoil it. But I wanted to see more of what happened rather than how he jumped around a lot. But some of the shit this guy went through, like holy crap, first of all, I can't even imagine being a child soldier. And just some of the stuff he had to see before that all happened, and like walking cross country. Insane. So like if you want a memoir like similar to that, I would recommend this book. Now let's talk Sherlock-a-thon. So Sherlock-a-thon was a readathon from March 8th to March 27th that Opal at Opalescent was hosting, and me and Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe were co-hosting, and I'll link their channels down below. How many prompts? I think there were like 6 prompts, and as a co-host I was like, I'm gonna do all 6. But because of all the shit that was going down thanks to the coronavirus, I read 1 book for this readathon. My first readathon that I co-hosted, I could only read 1 book. And it was The Raw Shark Text by Stephen Hall. Now, I was making a lot of progress with this book because of like the bus system at Disney World, I would arrive to work early. I had about like an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour to read, and that's when I would mostly read. I would read at night sometimes. And like I was well on my way to be on track to like go on to my second book. But then the coronavirus hit, Disney World closed, got laid off. I was given less than 4 days to go home, and it was just a shit show. But I got home and I was able to finish the book, but it was slow going because it was boring. I hated this book. And I shouldn't say hated because of the rating I gave it, but it like bored me to tears at points. So I originally added this to my TBR because it's kind of like House of Leaves-esque, and I loved House of Leaves and I didn't like this. So in the end, The Raw Shark Text got 2.75 stars out of 5 stars. So this book is about a guy who wakes up, has no memory who he is, talks to a therapist, finds out he has a disorder, but like he thinks more is going on. More is going on, as typically happens with books like this. Let me read my review because my thoughts on this book were very, very jumbled. So to keep it short and sweet, like the beginning of this book was very, very promising. Like Hall, like as much as I didn't like this book, Hall does have a way of writing where it just flows really well and does capture your attention right away. It's just you find out the twist way too early in this book. So once I found out the twist, I didn't care. And that's why I can't really talk about this book, because you find out about it so early, and like I don't want to spoil anything just in case you do want to read it. And so I was slugging through the last 3/4 of this book, and then like given like the last 5% of the book, because it was on Kindle, so I got all the percentages. The last 5% of this book, you know, kept me on my toes. I did want to see what happened, but then in the end I was left with more questions than answers. I was really, really confused what Hall was going for at the end there, and then like, I'm out. I wasn't a fan at all. So then, in the last 2 days, I finished 3 books, and that's because I've been reading my first ever manga, which is Tokyo Ghoul by Sui Ishida. If you don't know what Tokyo Ghoul is about, because it's a very popular anime series from what like my anime friend was saying. I have a friend like obsessed with anime, so she's the one who gives me all these recommendations despite like me not having the time to watch them. But it's about this guy, all he wanted to do was go on a date. But in the midst of everything, like there's stuff on the news about ghouls eating people, and he's like, nah, that doesn't matter. Goes on this date, shit happens, he gets an organ transplant, and then he turns into like a half ghoul, half human. The first volume I gave 4.75 stars out of 5 stars, and because it is, as much as it captured my attention, it is a little choppy in the first volume, and that's all I can say about that. So therefore, when it comes to volume 2, I can't really say anything without spoiling, but I can say I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5 because it was great, but it wasn't as great as, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Volume 3 now, y'all. Okay, so it was like 12:30 last night, and I'm like, I should go to bed so I can have an early day tomorrow. And I was like, I kind of want to read volume 3. So my compromise was to read like 2 or 3 chapters of volume 3, but that didn't happen. I finished the whole thing in like an hour and a half because it was just so jam-packed with action. Like, everything was happening, and like I couldn't stop reading it, so therefore it got 5 out of 5 stars for grabbing my attention like that. So even though I'm not like a huge anime fan, fun fact, like I've seen a few animes, but like I wouldn't consider myself like a huge fan. Like my roommate she always called herself a weeb because all she did was watch anime. Literally the reason I want to read Tokyo Ghoul is because the theme song fucking slaps. I'm just saying. That's the end of this video. That was my quarterly catch-up. Hopefully I could do, because Chicago's on lockdown until like April 30th now, I can actually do an April wrap-up. So, and seeing how much manga I'll be reading and all the readathons I'm joining, probably have a lot to talk about. So if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a good thumbs up, subscribe, do all the stuff, you know, the usual jargon you hear at the end of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and without further ado, I'm gonna peace out, so ciao tutti.